Hi everyone. Thank you for joining the meeting and event today. My name is Kuhn Peng. I'm the Vice President of Stanford Blockchain Club and also the Director of Stanford Blockchain Accelerator Program. This is a part of the educational piece of the Stanford Blockchain Accelerator Program, where we intend to educate the Stanford students and the Stanford blockchain community about different aspects of crypto. And the theme for this week is specifically on NFT. It's our honor to today to host Tristan Yver for the Fireside chat today, so that he will share with us more on the FTX NFT marketplace. So I think Tristan can just take from here, do some intro.
Okay, sure. Thank you for the introduction. And you got my last name right, which is freaking amazing because that never, ever happens. Hello, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time. My name is Tristan. I've been at FTX.com for a little over a year and a half now. And as of 2 months ago, I actually transitioned over to FTX US and took the role of head of strategy over here. So a bit of a change of pace. You know, we went from a cryptocurrency derivatives exchange. I was based out of Hong Kong for the last year and a half or so, to now I'm based in Chicago, working on a US regulated compliant exchange. So it's been an interesting process of going sort of from this world in which there aren't really the limitations up until you meet them and then you know they're there, to a world in which the limitations are very clearly lined and you know where your constraints are and what you need to build within. So it's been a good fun having both those experiences. As Kuhn was saying, we recently launched our FTX NFT marketplace on both .com and .us. Initially, this was just that you could mint images that you wanted to upload with different attributes and whatnot, but since withdrawals weren't enabled, it was more so just something that was living on the database. But as of yesterday, we went live with Solana deposits and withdrawals on FTX US, which is, excuse me, which is where the NFT platform is actually going to live. It's going to be FTX US because it's a platform that can not only accept US residents, but also people from everywhere else in the world. So we'll have one place from which everyone can participate of the marketplace. Starting off with Solana NFTs, and then we will also be adding Ethereum NFTs. So it'll be chain agnostic. You know, I think with time, as FTX continues to add other L1s that have NFTs, we'll probably see those also incorporated into the marketplace. You know, Solana NFTs that are deposited and listed on the marketplace will be represented in Sol. Ethereum NFTs that are deposited on the marketplace will be in Ethereum, and so forth once we have other L1s as well, or L2s for that matter. Something that's quite interesting here is that we've seen a little bit of debate in the communities. Something that I've been doing a lot of is spending time with all the NFT communities and issuers and artists in the Solana ecosystem primarily, because that's what we're launching with. And there's a discussion obviously of like, usually NFTs are traded in decentralized marketplaces. All of the transaction histories on the blockchain, you have sort of this clear record of everything that has happened where it has changed hands. So people were asking us, like, what does it mean that this is happening internally? Because the way that these are traded on FTX is the same way you would trade Bitcoin with a counterparty on the order book of FTX. So it's an instantaneous transaction. The token moves between internal wallets of the users, but there is actually an API in which you can record all the trade history of all these things. So, excuse me, even though we don't have sort of the blockchain transaction history up until you withdraw, in which case it's on the blockchain, or when you deposit, it goes from being natively on the blockchain, your Phantom wallet, for example, into this FTX marketplace, there isn't that blockchain component. So, you know, obviously this has the downsides, which are some of the elements of decentralization and whatnot, but it also has the upside that now you have near instant trading. You're not paying gas fees, which for now isn't a huge issue because Solana gas is so low. But once we incorporate Ethereum NFTs, it's going to become very noticeable, the difference that you'll see when you try and transact these versus how it is on OpenSea. As you guys see, actually, we had very good timing. Coinbase released their announcement today that they also plan to do an NFT marketplace. Binance has had theirs, which they haven't had very much success with. I think a part of that was that they wanted to push for BSC NFTs, which hasn't really fostered a community. So we'll see what happens. I know they just did a huge incentive fund for BSC, so maybe that'll pick up a little bit of their pace. So it's becoming somewhat of an interesting marketplace here, especially in the United States, where the move for FTX US was that this is not only a place in which we can, have bottom line revenue through transactions and fees and whatnot, but actually a really good customer acquisition mechanism, and in a way in which people that want to participate in the NFT world, but also like CeFi in the sense that they like knowing that, all their NFTs are in a wallet that's protected and safe versus having it on my Phantom, where, for example, I don't know if you guys have been following the Solana NFT space, but there's been a good amount of sort of little hacks and things that have happened with some of these drops where people have lost their collections. So, there's a counterweight there, and I'm really open to entering into questions after around these things if you guys want to go a little bit deeper. So yeah, that's a little bit about the FTX NFT marketplace. I know Kuhn had some questions, which I think are quite prescient. So I'm happy, Kuhn, if you want to kick those questions off and we can go into Q&A mode. And if anyone does have questions, please feel free to interrupt me at any time.
All right. Thank you, Tristan, for the awesome introduction. So as Tristan said, it's going to be more kind of interactive. So we have collected some questions from a Google form. So I'm gonna ask those questions, but feel free to raise your hand and just submit yourself and ask a question, or you can just throw a question to chat as well. So first, I think the question that we have collected from a Google form are more from two different angles. One's more kind of NFT general, the other one's more kind of FTX specific. So start from more general angle. So what's your view of NFT, the value, right? Other than art, what other things do you think from your perspective that it has value?
Right, that's a really good question. And I think like anything that enters growth phases or has interesting developments, we go through different phases with it. So up until now, NFTs have been mostly a representation of culture, be that art, music, physical redeemable objects, thing that you value because there's an attributed collectible aspect to it and that you have value in that, and other people may see value in it too, which gives it actual intrinsic value, right? So I think that's sort of step one of NFTs. It's been this representation of ownership of culture in some way, shape, or form. I think the next step of this phasing is going to be NFT blockchain gaming, which now you're going to see a lot of these NFTs, which were just purely aesthetic, purely artistic, purely musical, whatever, actually being incorporated and becoming utilized within these games, either in a very specific manner, like a weapon that you have in your RPG in the game, that's actually an NFT, or perhaps as a metaverse item in which you have a VR, AR reality and you're hanging out with your friends, but you can wear these NFT collectibles that you've accumulated over time or something like that. And something I want to note there, if there's any builders here, something that's going to be very, very, very valuable are people that are able to build SDKs that can grab NFTs from different sort of collections or different games or different metaverses and make them interoperable in some way or another. So for example, I'm talking with a game right now, and what they're doing is they have like a Super Smash Bros. Style game, but they're making it so you can actually incorporate some of these NFTs and have your character wear them. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with crypto kickers, but it's like these Solana NFTs that you can modify these shoes and make them any style you want. So the character in the game is now wearing the Rushdown Revolt version of these NFTs. So that's, I think, step two. You start seeing utility in these games that starts accruing them more value, because now it's not only a collectible that people perceive sort of this culture aspect to, or like the artistic value that they see in them, but they're actually like a collectible in game, and you can really sort of flaunt these to other in-game players, or maybe they give you extra benefits in the game. And as we all know, like people spend a lot of money on gaming. Like I know some people that spend like 200K on Clash of Clans, right? And they're never, ever, ever going to get any of that out. There's no way to sort of withdraw funds from Clash of Clans. But in this NFT reality, you can think of it maybe even at potentially, and this isn't investment advice, I'm just thinking of like a general model to think of it. It's actually you're investing in an NFT that is usable in the game, but will maybe go up in value if the game does well and more players enter and they want to participate with that item, and then you can flip it at some point in time. So I think that's phase two. And then I think phase three, which is like where things get really interesting, is you use the blockchain as this history of record, and you use the NFTs as utility. You attribute actual real world physical utility to these NFTs. So an example of that is that you can have NFT tickets, but actually functional NFT tickets that when you go into a game, you can scan it, and that NFT that's on that blockchain has been recorded as used, and then it can't be repeated or it can't be copied, or like how QR codes have some of these weaknesses that a lot of ticket sales people see. At the moment, the technology to make this truly scalable to level of Ticketmaster isn't really out there, but it's something that I certainly see developing forward. And this also ties into, I think, where maybe the most important aspect of NFTs will lie over time, which is in bringing liquidity to very illiquid markets. So for example, if you can have, imagine you have a house title, which is actually represented by this NFT, and now you can have an order book on FTX in which you can trade houses or something, or bid on an auction for a house, and then actually go and sort of claim the title of the house with this NFT, so on and so forth. So I think that's the progression I'm seeing in my mind. That's sort of the bullish case I see for NFTs. And yeah, I think that's a little summary of that.
Great. What a great answer to my question. I think I saw Fan. You can just unmute yourself, ask a question.
Yeah, I just have a follow-up question on some of the sample use case you were talking about, Tristan. And first of all, thank you so much for being here today. This is incredibly helpful. I just have a couple questions about the use case in NFT gaming that you were talking about. So as the current NFT gaming market right now, a lot of the NFT games were games that developed for NFT or blockchain game that developed with blockchain in mind, and there has been very little to none kind of enterprise level adoption of NFT or blockchain technology among large publishers. For example, you say, yeah, like there's whales that are spending $200,000 on Clash of Clans, but Clash of Clans maker are not adopting NFT or blockchain, or at least like no one is announcing that they even looking into this stuff. What do you think are some of the reasons why these existing incumbents are still slow on, even moving on toward adoptions, and some of the challenges that are facing?
Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you that every major publisher in the world right now is looking at NFTs and blockchain gamings and ways to integrate that into the current systems that they have. I mean, obviously, it's not a super simple question, because if you're Fortnite and you're selling skins, or you're Riot and you're selling skins, you have your inside marketplace where there isn't really a direct black market for those things. You control it entirely. You don't really have to think about the blockchain aspects, and you make a ton of revenue off it. But they're still thinking about if there's ways in which they can optimize their processes by using these things. Obviously, you guys all know the impetus behind everyone wanting to know what's going on here, which was Axie Infinity. I'm not sure what the valuation is right now. It got up to like $11 billion with a not very good game, to be honest. But what they did is they allowed people to come in and actually feel part of a community and actually make a livelihood off of this game, or attribute some return for the hours that they were putting into it. I resonate really deeply with this because throughout high school, I made all my money selling RuneScape Gold. At that time, obviously, it wasn't allowed. You had to like do black market sales of this gold, but I do see models in which a lot of these publishers are going to find ways in which NFTs are transacted on their own marketplaces or through proxy marketplaces that they white label.
So it sounds like to you, do you think that one of the major challenges they're facing are trying to design the adoption of blockchain in such a way that is aligned with the economic interests, or is it also technological barriers?
So I think it's a little bit of both. There's a few people that are going to these publishers and offering them a bunch of middleware to help them facilitate it so that they don't have to think too much about the blockchain aspects. There's a few companies that do that. Forte, Immutable X, actually, FTX has a lot of things that can be used. A good way to think about FTX is actually a bunch of SDKs with GUI wrappers for people that want to click instead of use the APIs. So a lot of these different functionalities different companies already have in crypto and blockchain can be attributed and used for these publishers or things like that. So one thing that they're going to have to surmount, though, is that they're going to have to onboard a lot of their user base into blockchain and crypto, while the people that are building blockchain native first, they're already native and they already have people that understand these dynamics. And if they're able to build from there, that's why they've had a head start, as well as sort of years. And I don't know, Axie Infinity is like 4 years old now or something. So it's going to be interesting to see. Although I do have to say these publishers have kind of limited resources. So I'm not too sure what the outcome is going to be.
All right. Thank you, Fan. Yeah, so as I said before, feel free to raise hand and ask questions. Yeah, so I think you touched a lot of interesting points, and I saw a discussion going on in our chat as well, which kind of touches the point of regulations. I know that FTX NFT marketplace kind of said that they will not, you guys will not list NFT with royalties. So just want to see your kind of thoughts around the regulations on the NFT assets.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so don't quote me on this. I'm not a lawyer. I'm learning every day, as is everyone. The guidelines are not clear for NFTs right now. So one thing I do want to clarify is we didn't say we won't accept collections that have royalties. What we aren't accepting are collections that pass those royalties through to their NFT holders, right? In the representation of, you could think of it as a dividend or something to everyone that holds that NFT. If there are creator addresses associated with this collection that have royalties tied to it, and that's where the funds end up, that's okay from our interpretation. If it's like a collection that if I hold one of their NFTs, I get some percentage of the revenues of the royalties that that collection has accrued, then we can't list those collections.
Yeah, thank you for clarification. Go ahead, JC.
You mentioned I'm not a lawyer, so part of my interest is I'm currently at the law school, and I'd be very fascinated, not just related to NFTs, but in general, how you interface with outside counsel, and I don't believe you have inside counsel, but maybe I'm incorrect on that one, and basically how you interface with these legal questions and lawyers to solve the problems that you're thinking about.
Yeah, so first, good, we need a bunch more blockchain crypto lawyers. They are in very, very high demand. We do have inside counsel. We also rely pretty heavily on external counsel. The only problem is all the very best crypto blockchain lawyers are being brought in-house into the different best crypto companies, right? So it's harder and harder to lean on external counsel because the best are now general counsels of different companies, basically.
Interesting. So how do you basically are starting to rely more and more on in-house and just trying to poach the best people in the field?
So we've gotten some of the very best people in the field, without a doubt about it. Yeah.
Okay. Do they, I'll do my last follow-up on the same sort of thread here, but how much do you interface with them as a strategy? And what are the big challenges that you struggle with on that front with them?
So quite a bit. I mean, you know, obviously on the US, it's a much more mindful approach to everything. As I was saying before, we have our constraints relatively well defined. There are things that have not been defined yet, but on the international side, it was a bit more flexible, and we would have things where a government would decide to change policies around something, and then we would have to be reactive to that and come with a strategy that made us sort of compliant so that we could keep onboarding users from that region, right? But in the US, it's more so where, you know, we did this NFT platform. Obviously, we needed terms of services for the way that we're going to accept and list NFTs. So I interface with legal to talk to them about NFTs, explain everything that I understand about them, and then get their interpretations, and then we can put together terms of services. So there is a decent amount of back and forth. I mean, a lot of their time right now is actually in discussions with the CFTC and other regulating entities because of our acquisition of LedgerX. We're going to be launching some different derivatives products, CFTC withstanding, on the FTX US platform. So that's where a lot of their focus is right now, actually.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, JC. So a question I have is actually for the, we have not started the accelerator program yet, but we'll start to recruit folks and admit folks to the accelerator program later on. But just for people who are very interested to, like Stanford students who really like entrepreneurship, I was just wondering from your perspective that can you like give some of the like ideas, like either like the pain points that you guys feel like FTX, NFT marketplace or FTX in general every day, and you think like you haven't seen any big players in that space that you think is a really good idea. And I think probably a lot of pain points you can limit to, I don't know, top 3 or so.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I were doing anything else, I'd be building in the Solana ecosystem. I'd be launching a project there with a team. I think that's still probably the very highest upside crypto thing you can be doing right now. I mean, March of this year, it was a bit obscene with how exciting it was. Like, I know I'm not saying this from the perspective that like I was motivated by money, because obviously I didn't do it, but I think the easiest $100 million to be made in the world earlier this year was launching a Solana protocol with a token of some kind. So we saw a lot of innovation, a lot of teams coming into this ecosystem and launching different things. So I still think that this is an ecosystem that has a ton of upside. And then things that are missing in the ecosystem, we're starting to see a lot of the DeFi primitives that have sort of come over from, when I say come over from Ethereum, I mean like similar representations of the ones that already live on Ethereum, but there's actually quite a lack of sort of infrastructure. So like on Ethereum, you have Infura, which is sort of what communicates between the external world and the Ethereum blockchain. On Solana, they're called RPC nodes. There's people building on RPC node infrastructure, but it's still like needs a lot of love and work. Like the SDK of these different NFTs integrating with different metaverses, there's still so much to be done there. Getting actually creative with these DeFi primitives and seeing if you can combine a few to create something unique, there's still a ton to be done there. Like NFTs in general on Solana, like I wouldn't say necessarily come into a marketplace because that's a lot of people are doing that right now. But I think that you can create different aspects and tools and infrastructure around these NFTs. Like one thing we've been dealing with, for example, is on FTX, we've had all these verified collections that are coming in from Solana that we don't have to manually approve so that they can be listed on the marketplace. And sometimes it's a lot of work to find the actual true creator addresses of these collections and then check in with the team and make sure that they're the actual verified addresses and we're not going to let any fakes in. If there were a service in which I could go and type the name of any Solana NFT project and right away have like the creator addresses, information about it all in one place, like that would be super helpful for someone like FTX. But the truth is, there is just sort of limitless green pasture right now. And I think it's really, really exciting.
Great. Thank you for providing the idea that our student can potentially work on and get funding from Solana, the Solana or FTX.
Yeah, I mean, and here I'll put my Twitter I'll give you guys my Telegram. If anyone has thoughts or ideas or things they want to explore, things they are building already and they want to get connected with more people in the space, just feel free to reach out to me. A lot of what I did this year was actually help incubate Solana projects. I've transitioned out of that, but that was most of the first half of my year. So I've just been very, very tied in with the community and I'm always happy to help there if people have questions.
Awesome. Yeah, so a question I saw from the chat is like saying Tristan briefly mentioned FT, like games integrated with VR or AR. So he's wondering like what state of this space is today. Are there projects using both today?
Oh wait, I did direct message from my Telegram. Sorry, let me do it to everyone. Okay, yeah, so there are some teams working on it. Actually, one of my favorite teams on Solana is a team that's building this RuneScape-like MMORPG, obviously biased towards RuneScape, but it's called Open Era, or I think like their Twitter is actually Open Era HQ. They are also building out a Solana mobile wallet because there aren't that many sort of like very good functioning ones. And they're making that mobile wallet also be really good to interface with Solana NFTs. And they also have an AR ability or capacity within this app. So for example, you can pin these NFTs within your space and then you can sort of see them AR and then you can invite a friend in from their mobile device and then now they're hanging out in the same space as you. You can talk with them and you can, show each other your NFTs or stuff, social aspects like that. So it's still quite early, but there are very talented teams that are working on things like this. And I'm pretty excited to see where it goes going forward.
Yeah. Cool. The next question we have, and also I said before, feel free to raise your hand if you've got questions. It's about FTX NFT marketplace. I think you mentioned briefly, but it seems like Coinbase is just recently, or actually today, announced that they will launch a marketplace, and Binance launched a marketplace, although not that successful. Well, and then there's a lot of decentralized marketplace, especially like OpenSea, the dominant one. So what do you think will be like the moat for FTX marketplace compared to the other marketplace?
That's a really good question. So I think, and you guys may know this, and I know Sam said it a lot, but FTX's superpower is ship quickly and then iterate rapidly on what you've shipped rather than get nerd sniped and try and come out with a perfect product. So that has let us be much, much faster than an industry that already moves very fast in general. So I don't know how far out the Coinbase platform is. I don't know if we rushed their announcement because we launched and they were like, had to plant a flag that they are also going to be launching one. So if it's coming very soon, it's going to be interesting. There will be some like direct competition. They're starting with Ethereum though, so it'll be divergent markets initially. But if it takes them 3 weeks to a month to come out, we're going to be so far ahead by then that I think we'll be doing quite well. Obviously, the comparison here comes in with decentralized marketplaces. I think there will always be DeFi native users. I think that there are people that appreciate and enjoy CeFi and use it, and there are people that prefer DeFi. The thing is, to get your funds onto DeFi, you very likely have to go through CeFi anyway, right? And FTX has a ton of fiat onboarding mechanisms, so that now instead of sort of, sending an ACH into FTX US, buying Sol, sending Sol to your Phantom wallet, connecting your Phantom wallet to Solana, buying an NFT there, and then having it in your Phantom wallet, you can deposit dollars into your FTX account, one click convert that to Sol and buy the NFT, and you have it. So it reduces friction in some aspects as well. And I think that's something that as this market continues to grow, it's going to be very interesting. And then I think another question here that at least is something I've been wondering, I don't know the answer to this, but it's like, where should the focus be? On existing NFT traders and buyers and appreciators, or on new people coming into the space and offering them a way to onboard into NFTs? So I'm not certain what the answer is here, but I do think that the later group is going to be a lot easier to do on centralized exchanges because it might be what they know it and what they feel comfortable with. And it might be a really good onboarding mechanism for them to start somewhere, get involved in NFTs, and then actually learn about Web3, learn about a Phantom wallet, learn about a MetaMask, and actually start interacting with things directly.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. So the next question we have is, I'll make it more kind of, actually, go ahead, Julian, on yourself.
Awesome, thank you. Just to that last point, Tristan, that's super interesting, kind of thinking about onboarding the next wave of users. Do you all think about how you let existing users who already have cryptocurrency send you that cryptocurrency to then be traded on your platform? Or are you, again, thinking more about how you onboard users from CeFi into DeFi?
Sorry, I got distracted by the text in the chat. Would you mind repeating just to make sure I understood?
Just trying to understand how you're supporting users who are already in cryptocurrency and trading on multiple other platforms. How are you thinking about making their experience easier on FTX, if at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So the people that are already trading crypto, as I was saying before, they have to get into crypto somehow. Usually their form of income actually comes from regular fiat money, and then they have to onboard that. We are that onboarding mechanism. So a lot of them already have accounts with platforms such as ours, for example. So it just becomes that one-stop shop in which they can interact with it directly rather than having to do a few more jumps out to keep going deeper into the ecosystem. So it's just going to come into the personal preference of these different people. And like, self-custodied wallets are awesome. Like, I use Phantom and MetaMask all the time. They are also very risky, and it's a really easy way to like mess up and lose all your funds if you don't know what you're doing. So I think people will just have to see sort of what their risk appetites are and see where they want to live.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you want to answer the question actually from the chat, from Dominic?
So we have received overwhelming feedback that Ethereum NFTs need to be represented in ETH and Solana NFTs need to be represented in Sol. There's a lot of reasons for this. One that obviously makes a lot of sense is that that's how it's denominated on all the other platforms. And for traders, it's really important to be able to see what fairs are, which means like what's the fair price of that item. And for that, they will probably compare across different platforms. And it's confusing if they have to be dividing the dollar amount by the value of that token each time. One thing I will note that I didn't say before is actually our marketplace is going to have two different sections to it. So one will be open marketplace, a la OpenSea style, right? The second will be, as you guys may know, we've had a ton of large partnerships and a lot of them have really cool IP. We're going to be working with some of these different parties to actually make special drops that will be in our sort of featured FTX drop collections, and those will be denominated in USD. So there will be an interplay of these different aspects depending on sort of like who the user purchasing these are. And another nice thing is like, even if you have USD, it's literally like a one-click convert into the token that you would buy these NFTs with. So I don't think it's that big of a hurdle. Oh, one last note here. It's really, really, really different to buy an NFT that says $5,000 than to buy an NFT that says 1.5 ETH. Like, it's really different. And I think it would really stop sales if you're seeing it in dollar amounts all the time.
Yeah, totally. I think it'll make a lot of sense. Once you see the gas fee in dollars, you'll just say, oh, probably
Right?
someone trade
Right?
it
Like,
in.
yeah, seriously. Exactly.
All right, cool. I got a question from Andy. When you list on the FTX platform, do you take the NFT into escrow until it's sold, or just call and approve and transfer from the user's wallet?
So we custody the NFTs. It's all internal into our infrastructure. So the same way that you would deposit Bitcoin into our platform and have that in your wallet on FTX, you have these NFTs in your FTX NFT wallet.
All right, cool. Okay, go ahead. Timur.
Yeah, so I just had a question about FTX in general, or the NFT platform. About are there any social or policy, goals or outcomes you guys at the company are working on? Increasing financial access to unbanked, or democratizing the money made by artists through NFTs, etc. The Cardano ecosystem does a lot with education in African countries, etc. So, are there any specific things you guys are working on to, as a way to onboard new customers, and for them to for there to be some social or economic incentive for them to start coming onto the blockchain through FTX?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was on .com, I was responsible for Africa BD for FTX. So I interfaced a lot with many different African countries. And lately with this NFT push, I've actually been having discussions and being invited to different Twitter spaces of African artists. And the underlying theme was, it's just too expensive for us to enter the game because it's too expensive to mint an Ethereum NFT, right? Like it's just baseline, these guys couldn't access it, even if they had amazing art, even if they had vision that they want to share with the world, because they were cost restricted, which I think, like, honestly, for on-chain stuff, that's everyone except for the quite wealthy on Ethereum at the moment. So the nice thing that we're doing is that, well, for one, it's minting on Solana, so it's going to be very low cost. And like any NFT that's minted directly on FTX is initially minted on Solana, and we're going to be offering a custody bridge in which if you want to withdraw that to Ethereum, you can, and you only have to pay the transaction fees of that Ethereum token going to wherever you're sending it on ETH. If you want to withdraw it to Solana, you can, and it withdraws to Solana natively. It's a wrapped version that withdraws to ETH, and then that will still respect the metadata of the token itself. So what we're really trying to do is make a very inclusive platform that you can come in and, the listing fee is $1 right now. And I think that's where it's going to stay. And with $1, you can create an art piece and you can list it at the price that you want. And now you have access to, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who already have wallets with money in them that could just go over and click twice and buy it. And like, if you're from, Ghana and you make $300 on a piece, like that's huge. That's like really, really big for you. So we're allowing things like that to happen on the platform. And going back to the social thing, I mean, you guys probably all know Sam's like huge and effective altruism, and his whole drive behind everything he's doing, which is, he's doing a lot. He just became the wealthiest person under 30 in the world, is this effective altruist mindset in which he wants to really, really change the world with what he's earned. So in some way, everything does feed into that baseline too, just as an underlying theme of our company.
Yeah, actually, I met Sam in a effective altruism event at Stanford.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think it was like a couple weekends ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I know he was meeting up with some people. He even did an effective altruism TikTok. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I will check it out later. Yeah. Fan, go ahead to unmute yourself.
And I know I've asked a couple of questions, so if anyone have a question they need to go first, please feel free. So I have two follow-up questions, if that's okay. One is one of the common criticism, not criticism, but concern that people may have is that the profile of the NFT community, or the people who are trading NFT regularly or have interest in this space, a very small subset of people, and the use case haven't really expanded to kind of a more regular user, let's say like a gaming platform. Have you observed that kind of changing, or do you have any kind of view in terms of the profile of the community that are using FTX right now, or the Solana community? And number two, could you speak a little bit more on kind of the SDKs available that FTX is developing, that some, like a enterprise or business or gaming platform could come in and utilize that to build out a block to layer on the blockchain application on top of their current technology.
Yeah, sure. So on the first point, I mean, I think that's changing rapidly. Axie Infinity, I don't know where they're at right now, but they had a streak there where they had 1 million daily active users. That's more than a lot of large regular games that aren't blockchain native. So we're seeing an explosion in the use case of not only people owning NFTs, but people using NFTs for gaming purposes. It's still early. There's still only one really big game, but there's a lot that are in development that I'm bullish on actually seeing what happens with them. And then, as I said, these publishers are going to come in. Maybe not all of them, but some of them are going to come in pretty strongly, and they're going to sort of not force onboard their users, but they're going to offer their users something that their users are going to want to participate in. And another thing, as you guys have probably seen, is like there's been a lot of people who have been interacting with NFTs at a mass scale. So like Immutable X just did a partnership with TikTok where you can make NFTs of your TikToks, I think. I don't know the exact details, but like, you know, you have billions and billions of users on TikTok. Now all of a sudden they can do things with NFTs. You have Dapper Labs who did NBA Top Shots and they brought in, you know, several million people who love basketball and now they're going to do the NFL. And like, there's just all these different developments that are happening, and everyone who is doing really well or is big out there in the world is thinking about their NFT strategy in one way or another, because if you don't, you're very likely going to be left behind by those that are successful in the ones they're doing.
Yeah, actually, that's a very interesting point. I think actually I will let William ask a question.
Thank you so much for being here, Tristan. Just want to dive a little bit, you know, diverge a little bit from NFT. Just want to hear your story. How'd you get into crypto? I think you have a very interesting background. Just wondering if you would love to share more.
Yeah, sure. So I have like pretty weird entrance story that instead of like that roommate in college that was mining Bitcoin or anything that got me into it, my godparents who are like 70 plus got me into it. So my godfather's always been just huge in investing his whole life and done very well with equities. And my godmother, for some reason, had gotten into crypto early 2017. And I had just had like a close call with death, I guess. And I was recuperating at their house. So I was spending a lot of time with them. And she started showing me this crypto stuff. I was like, wow, reminds me of RuneScape, honestly. This is really cool. And so I started diving into the Discords, the communities. And, you know, I think I started like going really deep in May of 2017 or something like that. And then from there, you know, I've just been a follower in the sense that I've been seeing what's going on. I never had really any money to put into it. I was in college, but I was still learning as much as I could all the time. And then once I graduated college, I just was working at a place where I had done a couple internships. I wasn't very happy. It was a good job. I just wasn't feeling it. I would work all day and then go home and do crypto for 3-4 hours myself. And I was like, you know, I recognized Sam really early on. Like I knew of him from when he was in Alameda because I had seen stuff in Discord. And then when FTX launched, I started seeing him a little bit more and I like recognized, wow, this guy's probably going to change the world. And I reached out to him and I told him like, you're going to change the world. I want to really play a part in that, before anyone really recognized what he was up to at that scale. And that opened up the road to an interview and I flew out to Hong Kong. And then since then, it's just been a continual growth journey and countless hours of work that has not seemed that much like work.
Thank you.
Yep. And I do apologize. I have a couple more minutes, but I do need to wind down here.
All right. So is there any other questions from anyone on the call? I know there's one question, I think from Andy, is kind of follow-up question. Is asking if like, I think it's a follow-up question on the custody part. Is asking if want to use like NFT on some application afterwards to put out, who pay the gas fee there.
Yep, totally. Yes. So if you want to use it somewhere else, if you want to list it on a DeFi marketplace or something, you need to withdraw it to your Web3 wallet. You would pay the gas. Solana withdrawals are free, so you're not paying anything. Ethereum withdrawals, like, I don't know, $5 or so, depends on what gas fees are, but don't spike that much. But yes, the user would pay the withdrawal fees on that.
Yeah, I think CK had a sort of personal question, so I think you just answered. So I think Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to sort of end on, a kind of a note, did you like what are you most excited about in the next 6 months? You know, not necessarily for FTX, but you know, in crypto, in Solana, you know, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to people. So I actually don't think the real competition has started on chain. Like my bull case for Solana is that's the first time I've seen a blockchain that you can abstract away that it's a blockchain, in the sense that if you have some really, really, really good UI UX people, they can make an app that you use and you feel like it's just on a database or an Amazon, you know, Amazon web server, like cloud or whatever. And in reality, it's on the blockchain. It has all the transparency and all the benefits that come with that. But from the user experience perspective, they don't even know that. So that's something I'm really, really excited on, is to see people that are grabbing these sort of like very primitive things that are being built now and making them into things that can be given out to the mass consumption and actually used at a, you know, very big scale.
All right. So thank you so much, Tristan, for your time and for sharing with us a lot of things on FTX, FTX, NFT marketplace, and Solana. Do you have any like departing thoughts before we finish this?
Yeah, this is very likely the best industry in the world right now. I don't think there's anything more exciting I personally feel like I could be working on. Like seriously, I don't feel like I'm working, and I'm always working. So I think that's a good thing. And if anyone feels similarly about this space, I would urge participation into it as well. Oh, and one other thing I guess I can share is like, you don't need to get sucked into the thought process of having to go apply for one of the big successful companies in crypto. That's not necessarily where the big growth trajectories are right now. Like, you might be better off finding a project you're really excited about, going into their Discord and just being super, super helpful community member. And then maybe, you know, they like you and you start talking more, and all of a sudden, boom, you're on a crypto team. And before you know it, you're helping them build their startup. Like, that's happened so much, and anyone can do that. So don't feel like you need to have some sort of warm introduction to get in. As long as you come in and you add value, the space is still so plus some that you will likely end up with a lot of value yourself too.
Awesome. Yeah, actually, I heard hosted several events. A lot of the speakers in the events mentioned the same thing. Just showed up in the Discord channel and talked to like the team there, and that's how they joined the team.
Yep.
So
it happens all the time. I'll leave my Telegram here again. If anyone wants to, feel free to reach out. It may take a little bit to answer, but I will.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tristan, for your time sharing with us. And thank you everyone for joining the event.
All right. Bye everyone. Have a good rest of the evening.